Hello, good afternoon. This is Dr. Stephen Evans, the editor-in-chief and publisher of Outclick Magazine. We hope everyone is doing well on this Friday afternoon. It is a beautiful sunny day here in South Florida. Amidst all the crisis and all that's going on, things are still beautiful and things are opening up here in South Florida. We are excited today to talk to, again, Phillip Dunlap, who is the director of our own Broward County Cultural Division. Phillip, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me back.
We chatted before. The Cultural Division does a lot for the arts and entertainment community. So we went into that last time, and we can refer them back to that video. But if you don't mind, give us your elevator speech on what the Cultural Division does and your role.
Sure.
For just a couple of minutes.
Sure. We're the designated local arts agency for Broward County, and what that typically means is we are the organization, the group that invests in arts and culture, but it invests on behalf of the local government. And typically that's done through, say, a tourist development tax, hotel motel tax, those kinds of things. So local arts agencies are in different communities and different configurations. Some might be nonprofits that have a contract with the county to invest that tourist tax in arts and culture through grants, public art, those types of things. We're actually a division of county government, so we are funded through general fund revenue from the county and also some tourist development tax. So we're the largest investor in arts and culture here in Broward County, awarding about $5 million in grants to around 100 nonprofit arts organizations and dozens of individual artists. And we also have a great public art program. We promote and market the arts, and that's our role here in the community.
Very good. We've been in conversations with a lot of people. We talked with Richard Gray and Stacy from the Fort Lauderdale Convention and Visitors Bureau. This has had the COVID has had a huge economic impact on all of travel, arts, and entertainment. Your office sent out a really nice email. If you want to maybe give us a little background on some of the economic impact that's happened here in the last few months.
Yeah, the arts are underfunded, undercapitalized in the best of times, and obviously we're not in the best of times, and the arts tend to be disproportionately or more impacted by things like COVID-19. Artists, along with some other industries, were the first ones to be out of work, our performing arts venues and things like that as well. And will be some of the last to come back, given just the nature of how those venues operate, the capacities, sitting close proximity. So what we did since the beginning of the pandemic is we worked in conjunction with our counterparts down in Miami, who designed a great data collection tool for us to adapt and use here in Broward County. And what we've been doing is sending out monthly surveys to our grantees and our artists to collect data on the economic impact. So we've been tracking things like the loss of revenue due, ticket sales. We've been tracking, canceled events. We've been tracking the additional expenses incurred by arts organizations due to COVID-19, so that we can put that information together and understand what that economic impact is on the arts. And we know for every dollar invested in arts and in culture, for every dollar spent in arts and culture, there's a 9-to-1 return. And that's from a great Americans for the Arts study that's done every 5 years, called the Arts and Economic Prosperity study. So we know here in Broward County, for example, that just in March and April alone, the total, the economic impact, just among the group that we sampled, this isn't even the broader arts and entertainment and culture industry, but just our small sample was north of $14 million in economic impact, and that represents hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs. It represents a lot, nearly 500,000 in lost audiences that would have gone to events but didn't, canceled events, and loss in ticket sales.
We just talked to Patrick and Matthew from Slow Burn Theater. We just talked to Andy Rogo from Island City Stage. We work with the South Florida Symphony. We work with lots and lots of organizations that your office supports. And I know personally, it's not getting to go to those. It's been going through withdrawals. But the economic impact is very troubling. But we know things are coming back. If you right now, your office sent out that there's an emergency Broward County emergency order to allow for things to be coming open, and people are obviously very curious about what's the next steps.
Yeah.
If you want to maybe give us a little bit of walkthrough of what that emergency order is.
And emergency order. These emergency orders that are coming out now clarify what is allowed to open. So the original emergency order was the one that shut down everything, and what had to close. We've been slowly, as a county, releasing new emergency orders that lessen the restrictions. And it's important to note that just because these things are allowed, that it really depends on the organization itself to open when they feel that they can ensure the health and safety of their staff, their volunteers, and also the patrons. And so if you think about venues like an art museum or that has a lot of space, they're a lot more able to control the flow of visitors than, say, a concert hall or an Island City Stage, for example. That's a really small theater where everybody's packed together. And so organizations, what they're doing is they're really having to make the decision. It's a financial decision. Even if an organization can put on a show with 50% capacity, if the 50% capacity doesn't even allow for enough people to come to the performance, does it even make financial sense? How do they ensure the safety of the actors, both on stage and, say, even backstage in the wings? How do they control crowds on intermissions when you have 1,000 people trying to use the bathroom at one time? And even if these things can be insured, there are a lot of other things to think about. So these are nonprofit organizations, and arts organizations are really in a constant state of evaluating. And I know there likely won't be much in the way of performances or bigger performances in our traditional venues like the Broward Center, for example, until probably into the spring. So before I get into the specifics of the emergency order and what can open, what's allowed to open, and some of those restrictions, it's important to know that just because a venue may have the option to open, it may not make sense for them to open. And even if they could open, I was talking to Kelly Shanley, who's the president and CEO of the Broward Center yesterday. There's not necessarily even touring performances that are happening in order. So even if the venue is open, there might not even be shows to produce and present. I mean, Broadway, we know, is likely not going to be touring before the spring of next year.
And this is Broadway. This is Broadway across America.
Yeah, because these are performances that have a lot of investment, and those investors are looking for that return on investment. They're not producing the shows and sending them out on tours just because, just for altruistic reasons. So if it doesn't make financial sense for Hamilton to go out because you can't get the volume and the ticket sales, then these shows are not going to be coming to our venues anytime soon.
We were talking about all the different layers, like you said, that the ushers and a lot of are volunteers, and a lot of them are elderly and at high risk. That's another layer of something. People taking temperatures, that's maybe another layer of payroll. If they're going to reduce the capacity of the audience, there's a food and beverage loss. Yep. So there's a lot of layers as we continue to unfold that we, as the audience, don't realize. Right,
and even if you're, and you also have to think about it. Even if a venue can mitigate all of these variables and have a plan, is the audience even comfortable coming back to a performance? So you've got to have an inventory of performances that you can actually present, which means the arts organizations that would present, if they're local or touring, need to have the funds and the capital in order to take the risk in putting on the performance, which means that the actors have to be safe, or feel comfortable. There are all these layers and compounding, and it's going to take us a while to dig out of this.
Yeah, and I've been in discussions with musical groups and with some of the theater groups, and also the backstage issues. Yep. That we don't see the having appropriate spacing backstage, and we've been in discussions with the ensembles and having players and wind groups and things. And so there's so many of those details that you just don't think of until you actually start to lay it out. So
exactly.
Do you have a sense of what's coming? Or we did get an email that the Museum of Discovery and Science, MODS, who's one of our partners, is going to be opening. They sent out that to their listserv. They've got some to members and then to the public. And then they've got their appropriate guidelines. And I'm sure they've got it cleaned completely as they can and ready. So
right, MODS, for example, I believe is opening to their members on Tuesday of next week, and then the following week to the general public. MODS is a great example of an organization that and the emergency order states that museums can open at 50% capacity. Well, the capacity of Museum of Discovery and Science is something like 3,000. So 50% of that is 1,500. Even on a normal day, in general operations, they don't even reach that level of capacity. And so they've got a great plan to keep things safe. A lot of their interactive exhibits are remaining closed, but a lot of their other ones are going to be available and open. Their IMAX theater is opening and with limited capacity. I think it's 30% capacity from the last time I talked to Joe. History Fort Lauderdale, which operates the Historical Society building. I'm going to forget the name. Sorry, Patricia, if you're watching. It's across the tracks just south of Hammershey, is opening on Monday as well. The Stranahan House, I believe, has a soft opening date. Sorry, April, if I've misquoted you on that. So our venues are starting to open up, but those and galleries and things like that have been able to open. Those are more akin to the formal and traditional businesses that we see. It's those exhibition, those performance venues that are really are really having to navigate some dynamics of how they keep people safe and comply with those rules.
We've talked about the ongoing plans, and they're working out things as they go along now. But I think from a public standpoint, we are patient in knowing that they're doing the best they can, and really people are so aware right now of the safety of people coming to the venues. And so we talked to Andy Rogo from Island City Stage. They're doing a partnership with MODS. And so he was telling about one of the shows that are upcoming. So there's some additional partnerships and things that are coming. The guys from Slow Burn said they're maybe doing some things outdoors. So there are some opportunities like that people are taking advantage of and coming up with some creative ways the show must go on at some point.
Yeah, and in the meantime, our organizations have really done a good job of pivoting into the online space. There's a lot of you can go to our website at broward.org and it'll link you into Arts Calendar. I think we talked about this at our last interview, but we have a whole list of what our organizations are doing virtually. And while we don't anticipate, and there's no plan that these virtual events will ever replace the live experience, it's kind of what we have to do now. And arts organizations are really good at dealing with adverse situations like the COVID-19 pandemic, because arts organizations live in that sort of subsistence universe anyway. Organizations are always understaffed, they're always starved for funding, and so they do a great job, and it's a silver lining to a larger issue, but they do a great job of making the most out of crappy situations like this. And it really shows that creativity that artists and leaders in arts organizations have. So
if anyone would take nothing and create something creative, it would be the artists to create it and do it. And so they've really, like you said, they've to go from their normal venues into this has been really creative. You did touch on your Arts Calendar, which is a fantastic resource for people to go to. We've got that pulled up. Where's the link? Arthur is helping me across the desk.
Yeah.
Do we click on events?
If
Is
you
that
go
the best place to click,
if
Phil?
you go up to virtual events up at the top,
Okay.
and virtual events will show you a list of a lot of the what's happening in that virtual space.
Okay.
So, you know, we it's as comprehensive as we can make it. Our team has been working to reach out to folks. Our business skills for the modern creator is coming up. Our first session is this Saturday. It's a virtual version of our 14-year-old Artist as Entrepreneur Institute. So we can't have 80 people in a room for Saturdays in June, but what we've done is 3 hours on every other Saturday in June and July, and we're partnering with the folks from Art Hive Magazine to really put together a high quality, high level business development courses for musicians, artists of all disciplines. You know, the music school is great at teaching the craft of the art of what you do, but horrible at teaching the business acumen that you really need as an entrepreneur to make it as an artist. So that's going to be a great thing. South Florida Symphony is doing just released their virtual a new virtual series from them. I see it right there, Miami City Ballet. A lot of great stuff. And again, this will never replace the in-person experience, and the arts will be back, and the arts will be, I think, stronger than ever when we do come out on the other side of this. But in the meantime, there's some great options out there to experience the arts and do it in a way that keeps everybody safe.
And it's we were talking when I was talking to Patrick and Matthew from Slow Burn Theater. I said it's been nice. The silver lining is getting to do conversations like this. We were watching the Hollywood game night, and I got to see Jane Lynch, standing in her foyer, and I got to see Jack from Will and Grace. Here we go.
I lost you. Sorry, I'm back.
Here we go.
Yep.
My router cycled. One of the fun things too about this, the bar is set pretty low on production value, so roll with it. But I was saying I got to see Sean Hayes' living room the other day on the Hollywood game night, and
people are really fascinated
Nick
with the interiors.
Got to see him sitting in his living room.
Yeah.
Yes, and we got to see Al Roker's kitchen the other day when he was doing the weather. So just getting to see people in their homes, but it's been the silver lining. And the artists, even though maybe you're not seeing their art on the wall, getting to talk to them about their art, getting to showcase them as a person in this kind of venue, maybe for some of them who are a little shy, it's pried them out of their shell a little bit, or there's some silver linings I think that has come a result of this for them to talk about it in a platform and in a way that has moved beyond just the art on the wall or the sculpture, but who is the actual person behind it, and get to know people in this kind of way. And that's part of why I enjoy doing the magazine, is the ethnographical study and the people who are actually doing it. So that's a little bit of the silver lining I've seen in all of this mess, is who are the people that created this art? Who are the people, and what's the story behind it in a way that we may not have gotten to see. So hopefully this will be one of the things we've learned. It's okay to tell the story behind it.
It is, and I hope I hope we don't lose some of these things that we've acquired during this, this pandemic. That access, it's forced a lot of people to slow down, I think, and really examine what's important to them: the friendships, the experiences, the things that we miss, the things that we can probably live without. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Very good. Well, we've got things that are open. People should sign up for your e-blast and email list. You've got a lot of good information.
And before we do need, I just want to run through what that emergency order is. I kind of got,
oh, okay.
And so the newest emergency order that came out, and these things change all the time. So if you want to be kept up to date, you can sign up for the Broward County Public Info e-blasts that go out. And when emergency orders are clarified, then you can check that out. Or the county on Broward.org does have a coronavirus webpage that has all of these orders. But museums are able to open at 50% capacity.
Okay.
Concert houses, concert halls, playhouses, those types of venues can open at 50% capacity, but they have to submit an operational plan to the county. And there is an email address. It's called Reopen Broward, or Reopen Broward at Broward.org, I think is the website. And an organization or a venue that wants to open would submit their plan or how they're going to address and meet those requirements from the county for social distancing, for sanitizing, all those kinds of things. And it will be reviewed by county staff. And then actually the organization gets a certificate with a QR code that they place in their windows on the venue, and that links, the QR code links to a whole list of approved venues on the county website, so that the public can actually go in and verify that a venue is listed as okay to open. And if the county says they're okay to open, then the county feels that they've checked all the boxes for keeping patrons safe. So those are some of the differences in this emergency order. So again, but just because they can open doesn't mean they have to open, or doesn't mean that they will open immediately. So, but it's always good. It's always good to check an organization's website.
I actually didn't know that.
Verify, that they are open.
Yeah, and a lot of the people we've talked to, things are changing daily, both based on county and state guidelines, and like you said, on their economic looking outlook. So it's great. And so your arts calendar, we put the arts calendar up there. We're going to share that link to. That's a very comprehensive calendar. This is great. Is there anything we didn't ask that you wanted to cover? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I don't think so. Things are changing fast, and it's important that the public just stays patient, and we all want these experiences back. And arts organizations have a lot to consider before they get back to things, and so it may take us a number of months, if not a year, to get back to that. Sort of close to what we were used to, or the phrase that I hate, the new normal, this and that. So. But in the meantime, if there are any questions, people can reach out to me. They can go to our website and reach out to anyone on our team, and we'll do what we can to help.
Very good. About how many organizations do you work with in Broward County?
We've and our grantee list is about 100.
It's quite a few.
It's about 100 organizations. We also, which is fairly unique, around the country, we fund individual artists. So a lot of places you have to be a nonprofit or partner with a nonprofit in order to get funding. You can actually be an individual artist and get funding from us. So we have a program. It's called the Cultural Investment Program, which is our individual artists and very small organizations. And so each cycle of those, we probably fund 30 or more artists.
We ran a campaign with the orange disco ball. We called it the Big Orange Disco Ball campaign. That was a fun campaign that we ran. We ran them everywhere with the orange inside of it. That was a fun campaign.
And we've got that trumpet with the mojito. That was in your newest. It's in your newest issue.
I'm gonna see if Arthur can pull it up. Yes, here we go. That's a great.
Andy Reiston on our team is our graphic designer, and comes up with some great concepts, and so that was
here we go.
Yep.
So we thank you for working with us and being supportive of us, and you will do so much for the arts and so much for all of them, for so many people. So This is just since I've moved to South Florida, there is just no shortage of things to do. Everything from the small theaters to our symphony to the opera to there is just so many things to the individual artists putting on shows. We work with ArtServe. There is so much to do. It's amazing. We have a really, really vibrant arts community here.
I agree. And there's nowhere to go but up.
That's right. And the people are still here. And as worried as I was in the beginning through this, I realized there are a lot smarter people than me that will be in charge,
Right.
And we'll figure some things out. So, well, thank you for joining us. If there's anything else, we can wrap up with that. But I really wanted to get people caught up that there is a plan. If they're not aware of it, they need to go to your website and they need to sign up for your email.
Yep.
So
thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for your hard work. We will do this again as we get a little more down the pike.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.